Wash your hands properly. Wash your hands regularly. Soap and water is all you need to scrub and rub naturally.
In response to COVID-19, the government of Belize has implemented strict guidelines on persons to practice social distancing to reduce the spread and risk of getting COVID-19. Practicing social distancing is when one maintains a greater than usual distance away from another person. In public health, it is a practice to prevent sick persons from coming in close contact with healthy people. Recent studies are showing that social distance of 3 feet or more decreases the exposure of COVID-19. Before these restrictions, a person with COVID-19 could infect 2.5 persons in 5 days, 406 persons in 30 days. When you put into practice measures to reduce the exposure activities by half of that one infected person, in 5 days you would possibly only infect 1.25. 30 days, 15 persons. Reduce the exposure of that infected person by 75%. In 5 days, you infect 0.625. In 30 days, 2.5 persons. Remember, the virus does not move on its own. People move it. The more space between you and others, the harder it is for the virus to spread. A health and wellness message from your Ministry of Health. If you have been directly exposed to the new coronavirus or have a history of travel in infected populated areas, it is recommended that you self-quarantine. Identify a room to be used to self-quarantine and limit contact with healthy persons. Keep away from older persons and persons who have medical conditions that affects their immune system. Monitor for any cold or flu-like symptom for up to 21 days and wash hands frequently with soap and water. If you become seriously ill, call your healthcare provider or 0800-664-2273 for guidance. A health and wellness message from your Ministry of Health.
If you have a cough or a sneeze, cover up to the right thing, please. Boys and girls, the entire family, help protect the weak country. Wash your hands properly. Wash your hands regularly. Soap and water is all you need to scrub and rub naturally. Coronavirus, seriously, it took over the world practically. Stealing lives with no remedy. Yeah, make everybody feel cautiously. Boys and girls, the entire family, help protect the weak country. Wash your hands properly. Wash your hands regularly. Soap and water is all you need to scrub and rub naturally.
In response to COVID-19, the government of Belize has implemented strict guidelines on persons to practice social distancing to reduce the spread and risk of getting COVID-19. Practicing social distancing is when one maintains a greater than usual distance away from another person. In public health, it is a practice to prevent sick persons from coming in close contact with healthy people. Recent studies are showing that social distance of 3 feet or more decreases the exposure of COVID-19. Before these restrictions, a person with COVID-19 could infect 2.5 persons in 5 days, 406 persons in 30 days. When you put into practice measures to reduce the exposure activities by half of that one infected person, in 5 days you would possibly only infect 1.25, 30 days, 15 persons. Reduce the exposure of that infected person by 75%, in 5 days you infect 0.625, in 30 days 2.5 persons. Remember, the virus does not move on its own, people move it. The more space between you and others, the harder it is for the virus to spread. A health and wellness message from your Ministry of Health. If you have been directly exposed to the new coronavirus or have a history of travel in infected populated areas, it is recommended that you self-quarantine. Identify a room to be used to self-quarantine and limit contact with healthy persons. Keep away from older persons and persons who have medical conditions that affects their immune system. Monitor for any cold or flu-like symptom for up to 21 days and wash hands frequently with soap and water. If you become seriously ill, call your healthcare provider or 0800-664-2273 for guidance. A health and wellness message from your Ministry of Health.
If you have a cough or a sneeze, cover up to the right thing, please. Boys and girls, the entire family, help protect the weak country. Wash your hands properly. Wash your hands regularly. Soap and water is all you need to scrub and rub naturally. Coronavirus, seriously, it took over the world practically. Stealing lives with no remedy.
Good afternoon, Belizeans at home and abroad. Welcome to another edition of Ask the Experts, where you get to pose your questions to the experts and have them answered live on air. Today we have back joining us the Attorney General and Minister of National Security, Honorable Michael Peyrefitte. Last week when he was on the show, he committed to coming back on Thursday to discuss the new measures under the latest state of emergency. Welcome, Minister, and thank you for being a man of your word and coming back here today.
I tried to be, Dorian. Thanks very much. I know the media has been hounding me for an update on one issue, so if I may use the opportunity to say, yes, indeed, the Court of Appeal did rule last night around 10 o'clock, which is an unusual time, that there was an appeal by some LPG providers, gas Tomza and them. They wanted to force the government to buy their butane, and the Court of Appeal upheld the position that the government decides who it buys its butane from. You can't force the government or the people to do what they don't want to do. So the ruling did come down in favor of the government last night. Gas Tomza and them, I think they're represented by Arju Matura and Molina, and the government was represented by Ms. Agassi Finnegan. So if I'm not able to give an interview on that, that is what happened last night officially, because some people are not believing that a judgment was handed down at 10 at night. But that was the case. We won the case, and we'll see now whether or not Ms. Matura and Mr. Molina will try their luck at the Caribbean Court of Justice. But yes, Dorian, if we could go back once again, and I think once again the Prime Minister's message was seriously misinterpreted. And I think we're here now at another stage of the COVID-19 regulations, and what I'm about to explain to you will be signed by the Governor General today, and it will become the law when we wake up tomorrow morning, right up to June 30th. So from tomorrow morning when we wake up until June 30th, what I'm about to say will be the law. Remember, as I said in the Senate, that it can be for a shorter period of time. The regulations can change, but for now, these will be the new regulations as of tomorrow. And I think, once again, it may seem repetitive, but I think certain things have to be repeated for people to get the full sense as to where we have changed, where we have remained the same. And not because there is some change in one area means there is a change in other areas. I want to repeat, we are still not at the stage where it's a free-for-all. We're not out of the woods yet, and while there has been some softening of the laws to allow for certain things, the big things remain. And I will repeat them throughout this process, but I think I should list the big things right away. The borders are closed. The international airport remains closed. Even if you're a Belizean, you're not allowed to come into the country right now unless you're returning from some medical emergency or you're returning to offer some serious medical help to the country. Other than that, not even Belizeans are allowed to enter at this point. Nobody's allowed to leave. I want to say right off the bat, there are a bunch of people who believe that they can freely go to Botes or to out west and cross the border and come back in. The new law will say that if you do that and you're caught, you can't even pay a fine. In addition to the fact that you will be quarantined, you're going to jail for 3 months, automatic. We catch you to come from Botes, you're going to jail, straight. No lot of talking. Because Quintana Roo has just seen a surge in COVID-19 cases. Why on earth would anybody want to enter that township right now at this point just to bring back COVID-19 to Belize? So we're having zero tolerance for anybody crossing the border and coming back into Belize. If you're lucky enough to cross the border, make sure you stay out until COVID-19 is over with. I think it's very, very important to say that. The borders are closed. If you get caught the first time, it's 3 months automatic. You get caught a second time, it's 1 year automatic in prison. No fines for breaking the border. You're going to jail. Secondly, it's worth repeating. It's worth repeating. There is still a curfew in place. When you wake up tomorrow morning, the curfew will kick in still at 8 p.m. tomorrow night, May 1st. The curfew remains from 8 at night to 5 the next morning, every night until June 30th. It remains. Unless you're a police officer, BDF, Coast Guard, frontline healthcare provider for the government. If you are an immigration service, customs officer on duty, as I said, on duty. If you're a policeman on duty, you're allowed to be on the street after 8 and before 5 in the morning. On duty. So not because you're not a policeman means you have a right for the out there midnight. If you're out there at midnight and it has happened, we have arrested a police officer or two for breaking curfew. Not because the police are out there. You have to depend on duty. I want the Belizean people to remember that. We are still in a state of emergency. We will remain that way. And the curfew stays in place. Curfew for children remains in place, but it will be expanded for a reason I will get into later on in discussion. Children will be allowed to be on the street from 8 in the morning till 6 in the evening. If you're 16 and under, if you're under 16. Why we have extended it from 4 to 6? It's very simple. If we're allowing more people to work, then more chances people will have babysitting needs. So if you get off of work at 4, you'll be given a chance to pick up your child between 4 and 6, and get that child off the street by 6 o'clock. So the curfew for children will be between 8 and 6. No, don't forget that if you're with a child, between 4 and 6, sorry, you better come for work or something, you know. Not because you're allowed to be out there means that the police can't question you that what is this child doing here. If you're just gallivanting, you'll be committing an offense. You have to demonstrate clearly to the police officer that you have to have that child with you before 6 because you either need to go perform an essential service or you had to pick up that child from the babysitter to take him or her back home. Borders are closed. Curfew still in place for adults from 8 to 5. Curfew still in place for children from 8 to 6 p.m. 8 at night to 5 in the morning for adults. 6 at evening till 8 in the morning for children. We clear on that? If curfew remains still, 8 o'clock you hear the policeman blow the horn or the siren, make sure they're inside. Because you will be arrested and you will be charged. Next thing, no matter what I tell you are the new relaxed rules, social distancing protocols must still be followed. Nothing I tell you allows for social distancing protocols to be violated except in 2 instances, or let's just say 3 instances. We saw a picture this morning from Corozal with a bunch of people gathered in a crowd by there. That's illegal. You cannot do that. You still have to maintain social distancing protocols. You must remain 6 feet apart from each person. If I say nothing else, I say this. For the next 2 months, everybody who is in public, everybody who if you left your house, you must left your house with a mask on. You will not be allowed to be on the street or walk into any approved business if you don't have a mask on. So if you don't have a mask on and you're on the street, you will be committing an offense. Ladies and gentlemen, because we're freeing up it a little bit more, it is now a requirement for every soul in this country. When you leave your house, you must wear a mask. Those are some of the major things I wanted to say right off the bat. And now we can go, Doran, into pretty much the heart of the matter and what most people are interested in.
No, will you be walking us through?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I think it's necessary. Remember, what remains the same is this. If you are out on the street between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. at night, 8 p.m. at night, 5 a.m. in the morning to 8 p.m. at night, you must be out to purchase essential needs. You must be attending for medical attention. There must be some sort of emergency. You must be an essential worker or an employee of an approved business. You must be a home health care provider of services to sick people, disabled or elderly persons, or to children going to and from work. You must be a person obtaining a service of an approved business or office. In other words then, you still cannot go from Belize City to Belmopan for simply a casual reason. You are not allowed to go finally visit your relatives at Dangriga who you haven't seen for the past 6 weeks. That is still not allowed. If you're leaving one district to go to the next district, you must be leaving for one of the purposes that I will read out. There are more purposes for you to leave, but you must be leaving for one of those purposes. And you must demonstrate that the reason why you need to go to Dangriga and you can't stay in Belize, is that what you absolutely need, you can't get from Belize City. You understand, Dorian?
I understand very well.
This is where we have not moved from. So, no, you can't just go, Dakar, you go relax right now. No. You can't just do that unless you're doing it for one of the purposes that I will list out. But that's it. So those are the kind of like the overall concept of what we're doing. Essential needs, medical attention, emergencies, essential worker, home health care provider. Now let me go now to exercising. We have expanded exercising. We used to say that from 5 to 8 in the morning, you are able to do jogging, running, and walking. Come tomorrow morning, people will also be able to bicycle for exercise purposes. But, for those people who are cyclists, you must practice social distance protocols even when you're riding, and maintain a minimum of 6 feet distance between persons while doing that. So if you're going to ride, make sure that you're 6 feet apart from the next rider, and make sure that you cannot ride two abreast, single file down the road. Right? Single file, no two abreast. Essentially then, you are allowed to now go and ride your bicycle, but individually. You're not allowed to train or exercise in a group of people. You know, like when you're in a cross country, they say the pack they come. You cannot be in that pack. You have to be 6 feet apart, at least from the nearest rider, and you must ride single file. If you don't do that, the police will arrest you. Because it's one of the riskiest ways to exercise. But since we are loosening up a bit, then you have to be able to bicycle. But remember, when you're the walk, when you're the jog, when you're the run, when you're riding the bicycle, you must have on one mask. So if you're not breathe good with the mask when you're the ride, no go ride. So once you're in a public place, a public street, once you left your house, you must have on a mask. So if cyclists who want to ride now, you must put on your mask. Not just a helmet, but your mask too. Very, very important. No.
And is there a time frame for that exercise?
5 to 8 a.m.
Okay, that remains the same.
That remains the same. Same time as running and jogging or walking. 5 to 8 a.m. But you must do it individually, and you must wear a mask. Now, let's go to the next. Let me say this, and it's worth repeating. I say it already, but it's worth repeating. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of National Security has to enforce these things to make sure that we're all protected. No matter what you're doing in the public sphere, a police officer can stop you. Officer of the Security Service, Police, BDF, Coast Guard can stop you and ask you where you're going, what you're going for, and why can't you do it home. When the policeman is stopping you and upstart to the police and want to cuss up the police, they went to jail. The policeman question you, answer the policeman, because that's the situation we're in right now. There has to be some level of control over the situation. It's worth, I said it already, but it's worth repeating. And if you cannot give a good explanation, the police officer stopped a person on a bus the other day. The left car, you going. They asked, where you going? The man said he don't know where he going. Where you work? Well, I don't ever say I'm going to work, sir. But where you going? He don't know where you're going. Well, he may know where you're going after that. You're going to jail. You cannot just move listlessly like that. You have to, and the police asks you, you have to answer. No. get this part about them. Notwithstanding that, I could give you a pass. I have still not issued any.
No sweetheart
No
passes?
sweetheart pass. Remember, no sweetheart pass.
Signed by you.
They lie. Okay. So if anybody says they've gotten a pass signed by me, then they lie. So we've still not issued any of those. We have still not yet determined what you have to do that you can't do between 5 in the morning and 8 at night. Whatever the claim you have to do after 8 at night, it is not deemed by us to be an essential service overall. Let's get into the meat of it. 5 to 7. 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. Fuel stations, fuel depots, LPG providers, LPG depots, and LPG distributors, which is like mostly the butane and the gas people for cooking purposes and home purposes. Agro-processors, food manufacturers and factories, and manufacturers of carbonated and other beverages, including spirits. People who make beer, rum, and stuff, they can now open from 5 to 7 p.m. 5 in the morning till 7 at night. Agricultural and aquaculture farms, regular farms and shrimp farms. Fishing for livelihood and sustenance, but not including sport fishing and leisure fishing. Some people say they're going to go fishing this weekend for sport. You cannot do that. You still can't go fishing for sport. You can only go fishing if you're a licensed fisherman and they actually catch you fishing. Not because you're a licensed fisherman means you can just be on the sea gallivanting. You have to be actually fishing. So if you're on a boat and the police, the Coast Guard pull over the boat, and you say, well, I'm a licensed fisherman. Yeah, but you dress up and like you the drink, you don't do the fishing, you will be arrested. You have to actually be fishing. And you actually have to be a licensed fisherman, clearly fishing for your livelihood or your sustenance, and not just because you want to catch the biggest marlin this weekend. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. The Ministry of Health has advised us not to allow that as yet. Waste disposal and sanitation companies and auxiliary personnel, productive sector industries, personnel and auxiliary workers, which means you make water and agricultural workers, you're allowed to work from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. Markets, we have moved markets now from one category to the next. Markets tend to open a little earlier, so markets will now be from 5 a.m. in the morning until 7 p.m. at night. So markets will open 3 hours before they used to work. It used to open up 8 in the morning, now markets will open 5 in the morning. Public transportation providers. Public transportation providers means like the bus, plane, and water taxis and the like, and we'll get more into that. They can operate that time, but I'll get more into more details as to certain restrictions that will apply to them as of tomorrow. Bakeries and tortilla factories. No, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., pharmacies, convenience stores, food stores, supermarkets, meat shops, butchers, distributors of carbonated and other beverages, including spirits, including potable water and food. The question is being asked, and I'm sure they probably asked you in the feed, Dorian, still no Bolido. No Bolido. We're in a state of emergency. The economy has shrunk so much. The tax base has been eroded, and the government has to be providing a lot of social help to the people. We do not want people taking money to gamble. So Bolido is not allowed. We want people to use whatever resources they receive for food and water and to help with their shelter. Please, I know it's a very, very popular pastime with the Belizean people, but all your resources should be going towards your basic needs and not towards any form of gambling. So we have said still no Bolido because of the social impact that it could have. Now, there's been an expansion in the category of hotels. Hotels, villas, and other rental accommodations are now allowed to open. hotels are open now, provided that only local guests can be there, no international bookings. Well, you can't come across the border, you can't land at the airport. So all hotels in the country will now be allowed to open as of tomorrow, but only for the local population. So, if you're in Belize City and you're en route to a hotel in Placencia, for example, and the police stop you and say, sir, where are you going? I'm going to such and such hotel in Placencia. Here's my reservation, sir. I'm going to be there for 2 nights and the like. So then you will be able to cross the border within the country. Allah, I know I say cross the border. You're able to cross district boundaries. You could left Belize district if you got a Kaya or a PG. If you're going to stay at a hotel, you must prove that you're going to stay there at the hotel. You are allowed to do that.
No. Can I ask, since you're on that topic there, is there any restrictions as far as that hotel reservation? For instance, are you allowed to go for recreational purposes, for like a retreat or something like that, or does it have to be that you have to be staying overnight? You can only book the hotel because you happen to be staying overnight on business or whatever.
We're getting into this for swimming. We're looking at it that you will probably go to the hotel, quite frankly, to do something different in some form of boredom. But when you go to the hotel, you're not allowed to swim in the pool.
Okay, so the pool.
You're allowed to be at the hotel. You can stay in the hotel. And not because you're in a hotel, for example, in San Pedro or Kikaka, means that you are allowed to just wander aimlessly on the beach either. So the hotels were opened primarily for people and companies that need to do business. You discussed last week about a person who has to leave from the north to deliver bread to PG. Now a hotel will be able to open to house that person. Okay. If you simply want to just go to a hotel in Placencia or PG, you're free to do so. But it will still be limited when you reach that hotel. You will still be under curfew. You can only utilize the hotel's restaurant for room service only, because they know the restaurants at hotels will be allowed to deliver, pick up, take out, whatever, and room service for who is staying there. You still can't eat at the restaurant or where they allow you to eat at the hotel. But even though you can go to the hotel, you will pretty much be confined to the room. So for some people, that's enough. They just want to have a different view from what they have every night. It's good for your mental state, and maybe you may want to do that. But what I'm saying, not because you go to a beautiful island and you're staying in a hotel means you're on the usual reckless vacation behavior that some of us engage in. You can't be out at any time. You can't be out of your room aimlessly or anything like that. So even though the hotel will be open, it will come with a lot of restrictions. Because still no swimming in the sea. Still no swimming in the hotel pool. So, and if you're going to Key and you're not going to the sea and you're not going to the hotel pool, I really don't know why you're going to Key, unless you're going for business. Right. So we opened it primarily to accommodate business people. But if you just want to stay in your favorite room somewhere in the Cayo district at a hotel that you have, you're free to go there and enjoy that room. Storefront outlets for essential business, which are the public utilities companies. BTL, BEL, BWSL, those will now be fully open, not just for collection purposes, but they will be open. Financial institutions, including banks, credit unions, money lending institutions, money transfer institutions, pawn shops. And remember, the public utilities companies also include the cable people and the internet people. They will now be fully open to conduct their business. But remember, if you're going to the cable office, and I'll get to another section soon, if you're going out there to pay your bill or to conduct business, you must have on a mask. The businesses will be held accountable and the person will be held accountable jointly if anybody is visiting that business and they don't have on a mask. So every company that will be allowed to open have somebody at the front door monitoring traffic. If people don't have on masks, don't let them in. Because if you let them in, you, the company, and that person will be charged. Mechanic shops, garages, and auto parts stores. Remember, these are all from 8 to 7 p.m. International delivery services, such as DHL, Federal Express, Amerijet, and the like. Service of takeout, delivery, or drive-through facility at restaurants, saloons, diners, and other similar establishments. Domestic deliveries of goods or pickup of goods or meals by social service organizations or volunteer groups operating under the auspices of the ministry responsible for human development, such as the pantry and the like. Wholesalers of goods and services directly related to an approved business will now be able to open. If you're a wholesaler of goods and services directly related to an approved business or a business that provide ancillary services or goods to the government, statutory bodies, or other approved businesses, you are now allowed to open. And this will require just a little bit of discussion. If you are a wholesaler or a retailer and you supply the government, for example, with goods and services, or since hotels are now allowed to open, you supply a hotel with certain stuff and you're a business, you are now allowed to open. It goes from as big as that to as small as, because the police department and all government offices will now be open from 9 to 4, you can now go to the police department to apply for a police record. In order to get that police record, you must take a passport picture. So for those places that have passport picture taking capabilities, you will now be able to open to take those pictures. However, when you detect the picture, you must be 6 feet apart. You, the photographer, the person will want to take off the mask just for the picture and then you hurry put on back the mask. The person is not able to enter your store without a mask. Because once you leave the house, you must have on a mask. If you provide services, if you are a stationary house and you provide supplies to the government, you're allowed to now open. So, for the most part, wholesalers and retailers can now open if they supply the approved businesses that I've just gone through and I will go through again, or continue to go through, or the government and those approved businesses, then you are allowed to fully open. Now, and I picked on them, or some of them said I picked on them the last time, so it's only fair that I say them again. A person like Vin Hong can now open to the public.
Okay, so as a retailer.
As a retailer and a wholesaler. Simon Kwan can now open as a wholesaler and a retailer. Mirab can now open as a wholesaler and a retailer. A&R can now. I only mentioned them because, to be fair, I specifically said they had to be closed the last time. It's only fair now that I say that they can be open.
Right.
So those can be open now. But they can be open if they can demonstrate, and I think all of those can demonstrate, that they do provide services and goods to approved businesses. I think you could buy people, a place like Simon Kwan supply just about everywhere with everything.
Right.
The Belize Zoo will continue to be open. Wildlife and environmental organizations, hardware stores can now open. And so places like Benny's Hardware can now open. Habit can now open. They can now open their doors for people to go and shop now. So you see a big loosening up so far of what we can do and the places that will open. But remember, you cannot walk into any of these establishments if you don't have on a mask. Everybody, every single soul in this country needs to have a mask. domestic workers, including gardeners, yardmen, and other domestic services. So we're opening it now to include people who have maids or helpers can come in and help them now. If you have people who cut your yard and stuff, they can come now to cut the yard. And other domestic services, babysitting or whatever, they can now come in and do their jobs. But they must always have on a mask. So if the man or the lady where they clean the yard for you, he must be wearing a mask. The person is not wearing the mask, the police can arrest them. Just wear your mask all the time. That's the new tenure of these new rules. You must wear your mask at all times. Now, professional services. People like lawyers, accountant offices, engineers can now open their doors. So now the law offices can open now, the accountant places can open, the engineering places can open, and that's just to name a few. Because the way it's defined now, it means a service in the service sector requiring special training. Lawyer, doctor, accountant, engineer, doctors are different. In the discipline of arts or sciences, and which requires as a condition precedent to the rendering of such service, the obtaining of a license or other legal authorization. So you talk about lawyer, engineer, accountant, certified electricians, certified plumbers, and the like can now work. And like I said though, at all times, whatever they're doing, they must wear a mask. Beauty salons and barber shops are now allowed to open. And let me get into some specifics here for this now. When we say beauty salon, we mean hair, nails, how they say it, mani-pedi, how they say it? Manicure, pedicure, and hair. I don't want to be graphic, but I want to be precise. No massages, no spa, sorry ladies, no waxing right now. None of that can occur. Only thing that's allowed in the beauty salon is your hair, your finger, your manicure, and your pedicure. Hair, nails, hair, hand, and toe. And so that is allowed to be done now, but nothing that would be considered spa. Like I said, like massaging, like people do like different little facials and spa treatments and stuff like that, and waxing. Body waxing. None of that is allowed at this point, because we're not there yet where we feel safe that that service can be provided safely. You must wear a mask at all times. So if you're the person doing the work, you must have on a mask. If you're the customer, you must have on a mask. Barber shops can now open, but the barber needs to have on a mask, and the customer needs to be wearing a mask as much as he or she can. But there is a big condition to these two things. It can only be done by appointment only. By appointment only. And at any given time, only 2 customers can be in the shop at the same time, except for the people who work there. The customer who is being tended to immediately, and 1 person waiting to be tended to. And needless to say that the person waiting needs to be socially distant from every other person who is in the salon or the shop. And if your shop not big enough, you have somebody to wait at least 1 Peyrefitte distance. That's what they call it, 1 Peyrefitte distance. One Peyrefitte. 1 Peyrefitte are 6 feet. If you don't have enough space to be 1 Peyrefitte distance away from the person, well, then you simply cannot be in the shop. So 2 customers, 1 is being attended to, 1 is waiting, and you have to do it by appointment only. So no, you can't be out there to gather around the barber shop and just to hang out at the barber shop to see who next. You have to do it by appointment, and you have to make sure that the social distancing protocols are observed. car washing and detailing services will now be allowed to open. But like I said, have to wear masks, have to maintain social distancing protocols, and you have to make sure that you protect yourself at all times. All that I've just mentioned are from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, between the hours of 9 and 4, all the offices listed in Schedule 2, and I'll say this right now what I mean by Schedule 2. Schedule 2 has been reduced to Schedule 2 has now been reduced to the Judiciary of Belize. It's not a government office, but the Judiciary of Belize, the Office of the DPP, which is a constitutionally separate office, Belize Legal Advice and Services Center, municipal bodies, city councils and town boards, diplomatic missions, and international and regional organizations such as PAHO and UNICEF. They will now be allowed to open along with the entire government service. All government ministries, all government departments, as of tomorrow, naturally will kick in either Saturday or Monday, are now open for business from 9 to 4. But you cannot enter any of those businesses, you cannot visit any of those businesses unless you have on a mask. If you're going to go into a government building to get government service, you must provide a mask. You must have a mask, sorry. And if you work in any business, whether government or private, and you deal with the public who is coming in constantly and going out, then everybody in that establishment that deals with the public must wear a mask. So clearly, if you work at a place like Vital Stats and people are going in there, you must wear a mask because you have to deal with the public. I also want to remind the public that employers are still obligated under the law to have your people work at home if they can work at home. So even if you're a government department, you're allowed to open now, but each government department still has the discretion to say, listen, while we are open for business, the two of you can do your work from home. Or under the guidance of the head of department, you can stagger when people come in and when people go home. But if people can remain home and work, that is still required by law to do so if you're able to do so. Those who are at work must maintain the social distancing protocol of being 6 feet apart from each other. And if you deal with the public, you must wear a mask. I'm being clear so far, Dorian?
Very.
No. If you work in the hotel business, for example, and you work in the receptionist area, you must wear a mask. If you're checking into the hotel or walk in the hotel, you must have on a mask. Listen, just always wear a mask. Don't care where they do, wear a mask. 24 hours a week remains food mills, sugar, citrus, and other approved businesses, oil production, port services, public utilities, and independent energy producers. For the avoidance of doubt, these remain closed. And remember, the customer for the last week, I said it with too much relish and almost like a badge of honor. I said casinos are closed. And I say it with the same vigor as I said it with last week. Closed. Casinos and gaming establishments are closed. Gymnasiums, sporting complex remain closed. Discotheques, bars, rum shops, and nightclubs remain closed. You have to continue to, at least for now, party virtually and online. I don't know what kind of party that, but for now, that's the kind of party we have to do. Every person, and it's worth repeating because it's here, every person shall practice social distancing. Every person in a public place, public space, or public office or building shall wear a face mask or other face or mouth covering. every employee of an approved business or office who in offering services to the public or who on account of his work has constant interaction with the public shall wear a face mask or other face covering. I hope I am being very, very clear with that. And like I said, employers are encouraged to have people work from home, and even if you have people working in the office, you must maintain the social distancing of 6 feet. And how many people will be able to work in that place will depend on the size of your place. Now, call centers, or what they call BPOs, which are business process outsourcing type of business. BPOs like transparent BPO, and those are the ones. They will be allowed to open but at any given time they must have the number of persons in here that is proportionate to the square footage of the establishment. So even though BPOs will be allowed to be open, and it will mostly be for training because that's all they say they need at this point to open for, they will only be allowed to have as many people in these places as they can fit, maintaining the social distancing protocol of 6 feet apart in the business. Now, in addition to that, each BPO must possess sort of like an internal auditor, an internal COVID-19 auditor, who will monitor the business. And weekly, that internal monitor will tell the health department the number of employees that they have and the number of employees who presented themselves to work for that week, the number of floors being utilized, the number of supervisors per floor, the number of employees who call in sick and who are working on a rotational basis, and the protocols being implemented, and any other information required by the Ministry of Health. In addition to that, the Ministry of Health has the authority to do a spot check at any time to make sure that these BPOs are maintaining these protocols, and if they don't maintain these protocols, then they can lose their license and be shut down. So the BPOs are allowed to open, but under strict rules. If we look at our sister nation, Jamaica, over half of their COVID-19 positive cases have come from people who work in these BPOs. So it's a hotbed for COVID-19, and although it provides some good employment and we can put in some protections, we will be extra vigilant with BPOs as they open now in this emergency time. If still no private party, no house except for who live there, no banquet, no ball, no reception, no social event for some gentlemen who don't want to get married. Luckily for you, no wedding is allowed except if it's just 10 people. Still the churches have agreed that they don't need to worship publicly or in a building. Funeral with only 10 persons, that still remains. No street food vendor is allowed to operate. No hot dog, no tacos, no street food like that. No person shall swim in a river or a sea. And let me pause and say this right off. Actually, I should have said it from the very beginning, but I say it now as we see into the food vendor thing. The rules that I'm reading are for the entire country of Belize. No part of Belize is allowed to have its own rules. You only have one set of rules. The one that I'm reading now and the one that the Governor General will sign, which is this one. He will sign it this evening, put on the website for everybody to see. No municipality no district, no town, no city can have its own rules. And yes, San Pedro is a part of Belize. And so the rules in San Pedro are the rules that I'm reading right here. San Pedro is not allowed to have its own rules. And yes, Belmopan is a part of Cayo, yes. So there are some people who probably would wish that different rules apply to them. They don't. What I'm reading here is what applies to the entire country. And no municipality is allowed to have its own rules that are inconsistent with these ones. I want to make that very, very, very clear. So, if you're not an approved business that I just read out from that list of approved business, you're not allowed to open. And we're specifically saying no street vending, which unfortunately for me involves no tacos and no hot dog and stuff like that. Now, while social distancing of 6 feet shall not be observed on any public transportation, every operator of public transportation shall have a hand sanitizer for use by every passenger. Now, why I say that? If you are traveling on a plane, a bus, a boat, water taxi, each passenger must have access to their own hand sanitizer, however small. And that operator shall issue out a small hand sanitizer for every person on that bus or for every person on that plane, even if you have to charge the customer for it. You shall issue it for use by every person on that public transportation. Every public transportation provider must have a hand sanitizer for each person on that bus or that plane. Why? Because those are the exceptions to the social distancing rules. If you're on a bus or on a plane or on a water taxi, seating capacity is the maximum amount of people who can be on that vessel. But because given the seating capacity and the distancing between, you will not be 6 feet apart. When you go to buy a ticket, whether for a bus or a plane or a water taxi, you must buy the ticket at a booth, queue up 6 feet apart for each other, and then queue up again to board the bus, plane, or boat and give your ticket before you get on the bus, for example. You don't everybody rush on the bus and then the conductor come charge you. You know when the conductor walk down the middle of the bus and say, all right, where you going? Then come along, take me. No, you must have a ticket to determine where you're going in advance so that it prevents the conductor from having to be walking up and down the bus, and it prevents people from rushing to be on the bus at any given time they want to take the bus. So I hope I'm very clear on that.
Okay, well, let me try to clarify something for the benefit of the viewers. No, if you have your own sanitizer, then the operator does not need to.
No, if you have your own one and you prefer to use your own one, then use your own one.
The other thing is this. What if the operator does not issue like an individual package of sanitizer or whatever, but if they have a large, let's say you have those large pump-filled bottles with large bottles with pumps of sanitizer, and they could just drop some in your hand upon entering. And
as long as as long as they provide some way for them to cleanly pump the thing and put it in their hand, well then that's fine.
Okay, so they don't have
but
to necessarily.
It must
give
be
you
provided. Hand sanitation, hand sanitation capabilities must be provided to every passenger. Every passenger must have a place where they could go and do a hand sanitization process before they get on the bus. And remember, you have to wear a mask.
And on
if
the
you
bus,
go on a bus, water taxi, plane, you must wear a mask at all times.
and on the bus, hand sanitizer must be available to all passengers.
Right, you must have it available to all passengers while they're on the bus.
Thank you.
All right? No. I've already discussed this part. going to and from Belize. If you get caught, you'll spend 3 months in prison. And a second offense, it will be a year. And pretty much that's it, Dorian. I don't know if those are the new changes. Those are the new rules. And I suspect, as usual, I hope I was clear enough. I suspect, as usual, now we will have some questions or some queries that people may want to have.
Yes, we have quite a bit of questions.
Okay.
And,
that means I wasn't clear then.
no, you're clear, but you know, we still have these little nuances that people try to get figured out. But I see in the comment section a lot is being said with regards to the mask situation in Belize and where our masks. So for the public, I can tell you that the Attorney General walked in with his mask on. I have my mask here with me. If you can show them, he has a very nifty mask at that.
Yeah,
very patriotic one.
And extra, even my mask have for 5X large.
So that was a special order.
Okay. It was a gift.
So we do have our masks. However, the mask created a muffling on the mic, so we wanted to make sure that you all can hear clearly.
Yes.
And
But I walk in with the mask,
yes,
and everybody else in here is wearing a mask.
everybody else in the studio does have on a mask, and I have mine right here too. But like I said, I wanted to be able.
And
for
we're
you
6
all-
feet apart.
Yes, we are 1 pair of feet apart. So, so we'll get to the questions now. And like I said, we have
Yes.
a bunch of questions. This question here actually is from the mayor of Orange Walk, His Worship Kevin Bernard.
Yes.
He asks, can you specify clearly whether small clothes vending shops can open? We have those open tent clothes vendors like in the park and such, and in the streets in Orange Walk, and they want to know if they can open up and sell clothes.
Well, no, they can't, because then they would have to demonstrate that they're providing clothes for one of the approved businesses that I just mentioned. Do they provide clothes for use by the hotel people, for example, or any of the approved business? And if they can't, and that's their main business, then they are not allowed to open. They are not yet an approved business.
Okay, now we have, and that leads into the next question, because we've received quite a few questions with regards to boutiques that sell clothes. I know there are some boutiques that do provide uniforms and such to essential
Well, then that's
services.
different. If you provide, if you are the main provider of uniforms for a particular bank and you're sewing clothes, then you will be allowed to open to fulfill that purpose. If you make furniture and you sell to the government, or you sell furniture to a hotel, then you'll be allowed to open up so you can provide that essential service that's allowed to open.
Okay. Now we have a question about construction. Now that construction is now able to.
Right. No, they've
carry
been from
on.
last week.
Yes.
Construction sites, both private and commercial.
And no hardware
And no
stores
hardware
open.
stores, yes.
But what about construction? Like this person is asking specifically within the free zone, because I guess they were doing some construction within the free zone, but we know the free zone remains closed at the present time.
Yes, it remains closed, and it depends on where your workers are coming from.
Okay.
If your workers are coming from within Belize, then yes, you are allowed to the free zone is in Belize property. But if your workers are coming from Mexico, then you can't use those people.
Okay.
If you insist on using, for example, Mexican workers to work on your site in Belize, then your site has to be closed down.
Okay. Hi. We had a similar question last week, but for the benefit of not everybody tunes in every week, believe it or not. Hi, what if I have a funeral to attend in Corozal and I live in Belmopan? Can I travel to Corozal with 3 people to attend that funeral? And I'm hoping that not more than 10 people will be attending that funeral, but I guess the question is more about transit.
Yeah, well, when you're in a car or transportation, then you are allowed to be more than one person in a car, seating capacity. So most cars, I think, hold 4 people. Have it be 4 people, and each person must be wearing a mask.
Okay.
When you left your house, you have to put on a mask.
Also, can tennis be played only 2 persons at a time? It's a form of exercise.
No, tennis is not allowed.
Okay, that doesn't fall under the...
It wasn't. It's jogging, running, walking, cycling.
Well, cycling, we have a lot of people who wanted to know about that, and that's been answered. So thankfully, those people can now ride their bikes for exercise purposes. We've been getting a lot of questions about insurance offices. Can those offices now open
No, they're not an essential service at this time.
if they are providing business
Well,
or essential
well,
service?
and the financial institutions, the insurance companies, they're not here. They're not considered to be financial institutions, but it is a critical thing to ask. Well, if you're allowed to be around and to go around, then you need to be able to purchase your insurance. They are allowed to be open, I would say, only for the purposes of renewing your insurance for queries and claims and things like that. Then that is extremely limited, but you have to be able to buy your insurance. So I would say yes, even though they're not listed here, they are allowed to open for you to insure your vehicle.
Okay. Here, I had one here. Okay, this is more with regards. Well, I guess this you can use both hats, the Attorney General and Minister of National Security hat, with regards to this question. A citizen wants to know: are we allowed to video our interaction with military and law enforcement personnel?
What do you mean, video it for what purpose?
As far as like using your camera on your phone to, if you have an exchange or whatever with.
Well, don't people do it anyway all the time? Listen, if you're in a situation with a military officer, a member of the security forces, and that person is doing their job professionally, they wouldn't mind if you video them. But I will always have an issue with people disrespecting members of the security forces. You don't pull out some phone while you're the custody policeman and push the camera in at the man's face. I mean, that's disrespectful. So anything done in a respectful way, I'm sure a police officer won't mind. Remember, you know, if a police officer comes to you, you have every right to ask him, officer, what's your name? What's your rank? What's your position? What's your number? And that police officer, if they're up to something straight, and they will tell you that, they will give you that information. And so, yes, you can video people for your own safety and stuff, but you cannot be disrespecting people while you're doing it. Because some people will get cute. You the video the policeman, but they cuss the policeman. The policeman arrests you for cussing. Then you'll say, oh, the man locked me up because of the video. No, you don't lock you up because of the video. You get locked up because they be disrespectful and they cuss the man. So, in those cases, yes, you can to protect yourself, but do it respectfully.
Okay. Is there a penalty, and if so, what is the penalty for not wearing a mask in public?
$5,000 or 2 years in jail.
Oh, so it's the same penalty
It's
as
the same
breaking
penalty.
curfew?
The same penalty.
For not wearing
If
a
you're
mask.
caught without a mask, the penalty is $5,000 or 2 years of jail.
Okay. Also, not everyone can afford to buy a mask, and masks are scarce. So a question that we have here is: are you allowed to make your own masks? I've seen some people sew some very nice creative masks, but what about like a scarf, tying a scarf over your face?
You have to have
or
a
something?
solid covering. But what I'm saying too is, come on, man. If you decide to make your own mask, it will cost you more than if you just buy one. There's several people selling masks all over the place. In all those department stores and convenience stores sell masks. The YWCA, they're selling masks. By the thousands, they're selling masks. The cost of a mask is about, what, $5? I mean, for you to take time in your day and go buy material and go buy needle and thread and juke up your finger, better just take $5 and buy the mask, man.
Okay. Can there be 3 barbers in one barbershop? Is there a limit on the number of employees in a barbershop? Because
There isn't a limit, as provided that each barber is 6 feet apart. If you could have your spot where each barber is 6 feet apart, well then you're good.
Okay. Can daycares reopen? And if not, how many kids can a sitter take
No,
in?
no daycares at this point because there will be so many children so close to each other.
Okay, but you can hire your babysitter to come
to your house and babysit, or take the child to a babysitter's house. But we don't want so many children so close to each other.
Okay, there's another question with regards to the curfew and babysitting, the child curfew. What's the child curfew again?
It's the child can be on the street after 8 a.m. and up to 6 p.m.
Okay.
Come 6 p.m., every child must be at home or inside.
Now this question asks, work starts for many people at 8 a.m.
Yes.
So they have to get their child, whoever is taking care of their child or having their sitter or whatever, has to be before 8 a.m. if they're
Or they
dropping
could
them.
arrive at 8. Or they could leave early and be at 8. Remember, you know, you're allowed to be, so make the adjustment. If your work starts at 8, right, then you need to have your child at your babysitter about 7:30.
But then you can't have the child on street before 8 a.m.
No, but most places that are open at 8, you're talking about government services or people who work at banks or financial institutions.
Well, anyone who has to work at 8 a.m.
Well, then if you have a child and you work somewhere, you have to make arrangements with your employer to make sure that maybe you can come to work a little bit later and even work a little bit later. But that child cannot be on the street before 8 a.m.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Make the adjustment.
Let's see here. Okay, someone is asking, if you don't have you're not a licensed fisherman, but can you go fish on the side of the river to catch fish to feed your family as a way for sustenance?
Yes, if you're fishing for sustenance, you have to prove that you have to fish for eat, you know. They said, Dorian, people like get cute, you know. Don't get cute, you know. If that's what you have to do, then do that. But if that's not what you the fishing in a river, you are not a licensed fisherman, and you claim that you need that for sustenance, you better prove that the only fish you could eat, you know, and that everything else where you eat will kill you, because then you don't have to. If beef or chicken no one kill you, then eat that until COVID-19 is finished. Please, nobody like our fried fish better than me.
Fry dry.
Dry.
So, cell phone stores.
No, well, I mean, if they
Cell phone and
supply,
electronic stores.
well, if they supply hotels and if they supply the government with phones, or if they supply essential service
Supply
people with
BTL.
phones, if they supply BTL with phone, then they're allowed to open.
And the retail portion of that store can be
Yes,
open.
can open.
Okay. Laundromats. Will laundromats be able to reopen if they are able to provide access to machines by appointment only while
No,
limiting the customers?
laundromats were not open as yet. You still have to
Okay.
wash your own brief.
Okay, okay, so, no, this might be considered cute. Let's see. If you can move from one place to another to go to a hotel, then why can't you travel to Dangerga, for instance, to see family members, and you'll be staying at your family member's house, which if you are going to a hotel, it's somewhere that you'd be staying as well.
Because to be honest with you, the whole concept behind opening your hotels was for people who had to be in those different localities for the purpose of business.
Right,
That's the reasoning behind it.
right. So, not just to go visit somebody.
Right, not to go and visit someone or to recreate. We want, remember, you know, we want people to not move if they don't have to.
Right.
But what we're doing is providing an outlet for these people who have to travel the country for work, that they have the choice to stay in a hotel in down south rather than have to drive all the way back to Corozal at night, for example.
Okay, when it comes to public transportation, taxi drivers, would taxis now be able to operate at their stands, or is it still
No,
on
they
a
can't
on-call
operate at their
basis?
stands.
Okay. I'm being told by the police that due to social distancing rules, I have to take a taxi or the bus rather than ride on a motorcycle with my husband, whom I sleep next to every night when we go out and run errands. Can you confirm or deny this?
That is true. If you're going to be on the motorcycle, it has to be just you.
Okay, so even if there's seat available for another.
It has to be one person on a motorcycle, one person on a bicycle.
Okay, thank you. I sell tamales and
Although it's a good point. But
yeah, it's a very valid valid question. I sell tamales and tamalitos, but I don't do it from one location. I go on my bike, just like how the tortilla people do. Will that be allowed?
if you notice, we said bakeries and tortilla factories are allowed to open. people are not driving around selling tortillas. So no, you're not. You would be classified as a food vendor. So you're not allowed to do that. Like I said, if you're a registered business, you should be able to open from home and have people do takeout or delivery. But to go around, to leave your premises with food to sell on a rotation business, that's not allowed under the new regs.
Okay, they're asking about printing companies, but I imagine if they can show that they're providing business
To an essential
service,
right,
then they should be
right.
fine.
If, for example, like just pick the bank is always a good institution to pick. The bank, for the bank to operate, they must employ this person or buy their stuff. Then that person is allowed to open.
Okay. Okay. Now, when we speak about hotels, so countrywide hotels are allowed to open. However, we know the free zone is not operating right now, but there is a hotel in the free zone. Would that hotel then be allowed to operate?
Well, I mean, if it's a hotel in the free zone, but the free zone is closed, then you can't go to that hotel.
Okay. Okay. So, and going back to taxis, how many persons can be in a taxi at any given time?
Seating capacity.
Seating capacity. So one person per seat and
Right.
wearing a mask at all times.
All times.
Perfect. Let me go to the other one. Okay. Okay. So for instance, a company that is an essential service, such as Central Bank, for instance, a lot of people, they have quite a number of employees, and their cubicles aren't set up 6 feet apart. Do they now have to make that
They have to
adjustment?
make it 6 feet apart.
Okay.
They have to make the adjustment.
No, let's see here. Okay, we got that one, got this one. Okay, so you already said car washes are allowed to open. Wonderful. Okay, so that was a hotel question. We addressed that one. I have another question here about...
And listen, before you go to that, right? You know what I encourage people to do when it comes to that hand sanitizer thing? I would encourage you, you know, when it comes to mask and hand sanitizer, invest and buy your own. Buy your own miniature one, so you can always have it. Because then you could be on a bus and a bus, but suppose you don't ride bus. Or let's just say you don't want to use the one on the bus. And it's not only on a bus or public transportation you use it for. Advisable to always have your hand sanitizer. You must wear your mask. There's no law say you must have hand sanitizer with you at all times, but it's advisable. None of what we're saying here is for you to interpret as you're no longer going to wash your hand. Man, you must always wash your hand. Always have your hand sanitizer. Always have your mask. It's one of the reasons, to be quite frank, why we close casinos and Bolido, you know. Is for you to have a few dollars freed up so you can purchase these very, very necessary things. But go ahead, sorry about that, Dorian.
This question is with regards to markets. As I understand it, markets can be open from 5 a.m., correct?
5 a.m. now to 7 p.m.
Okay, so now, food vendors, no street food vendors. However, what if someone has a stall at the market that sells tacos?
No, they can't. That's a food vendor.
But they'd be able, what if it was takeaway?
No, you go to the market to buy your vegetables
produce
and stuff like that.
As such.
If it's an established restaurant, and if you have a restaurant license in the market, then you're a restaurant.
Yeah.
You do takeout, but if you don't have a restaurant license, then you can't operate as a restaurant.
Okay. And shops, it still remains 8 to 7, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now we have a question with regards to rent. Can rent be legally waived for a period of time due to the situation at hand?
If it can be waived?
Yes, or is there, I guess what this person is asking, that, you know, they're not making any money. So is there any kind of
No,
recourse for them?
If you don't pay a rent, the landlord cannot simply throw you out without a court order. I mean, but the landlord has a right to want his or her rent. And if you live somewhere, it's very unfortunate for you if you lose your job and you can't pay your rent. But if you stay in there continuously and can't pay your rent, you will owe that rent. The landlord doesn't have to waive that rent if he or she doesn't want to. They don't. You owe that rent. Now, if I were running a building, I would think maybe it would be a good decision for me to give my tenants maybe a waiver for a couple months or so, because then when they do get back their jobs or things come back to normal, hopefully very soon, then those customers will stay and continue to rent my building. It may be a good business decision, but the landlord or landlady has every right to want their rent.
Okay. So
We can't tell a landlord or a landlady, you must waive rent for the next 2-3 months. We can't do that.
what about a food truck? A licensed food truck?
No.
Would that be
A food
for,
vendor on the street. From the
for
moment you're on a
takeaway?
truck, you're up on the street.
Okay. If I live in Belmopan but want to get my nail technician is in San Ignacio.
No, you must do it in your locality.
You know, people funny about that. They only go to one specific barber, one specific. But
Well, if you're that funny about it, then move to Cayo.
oh, well, that's a
If it's that important to you.
that's a good way to solve that problem. Okay, do taxi drivers also need to supply hand sanitizer? We know the bus operators
Yes,
have to. So
yes,
taxi
they have to
drivers,
have
so
it available in the car. But to me, the whole hand sanitizer thing, I would prefer to have my own, you know.
Right.
Because you don't know who, you know, you would prefer to have your own. But they have to have it available to you so that you could use it when you enter the vehicle.
Okay, my employee lives in Belmopan and we have a restaurant and he was coming to Belize City and they told him at the checkpoint that he needs a signed letter from the police commissioner. Is this so?
Well, not necessarily, you know. No, not from the police commissioner, no. I think what would be more important to the police officer is the police officer stops you and says, where are you going? Well, I'm going to work in Belize City at an approved business. The policeman could say, well, do you have anything to indicate that you work at this place? And so maybe a letter from the employer would tell the police officer that you indeed work at that establishment. Now remember, that is only for you to go from work or to work from 5 in the morning to 8 at night. That no work after 8 at night.
Okay, this one is a person, her mother is living here in Belmopan with her.
Yes.
However, due to the fires that we're dealing with in this region, it's affecting her health and her breathing.
Right.
So can she take her mother from Belmopan to Belize City where the air quality is better because it's affecting her health?
Oh,
being
absolutely.
here?
That would be for a medical purpose.
Okay. This one here. Can NGOs open to do feeding programs?
Well, provided that they fall under the auspices of the Ministry of Human Development.
Okay.
So if you want to open a feeding program and you're an NGO, you must be sanctioned by the Ministry of Human Development.
Are families allowed to visit each other now if they're in the same locality?
What do you mean live with each other?
Are they allowed to visit each
No.
other if they're in the same?
No, you're not allowed to casually visit your family. You are to stay home.
Okay. This one, here's a question. I just had
Unless the person there needs medical help or care, or is an elderly person or is a disabled person, you must be going there for a purpose with a particular reason. You can't just, well, I miss my cousin and I want to go see her. That's not an approved purpose for a visit.
government offices, government departments, are they still opening from 9 to 4?
Yes,
or are
yes.
they going reverting
9
back
to 4
8 to
still
5?
for now, 9 to 4.
Okay, thank you. This one is interesting. Can aerial drone operators continue to operate for clients, some of who are essential service providers, since there is no person-to-person contact with drone operators? Like, so somebody who flies a drone to make like advertisements or take pictures or such, and some of their clients happen to be essential services. So can they operate that drone, like go out and
They take what for what?
they take videos with the drones, they take pictures with the drone to get aerial shots.
But where would they have to go for that?
Well, anywhere where
They would have to go to a particular place and, well, they could do it, provided that they could prove the
That
police
they're doing
officer
work.
would have a right to stop you and say, well, let me see the pictures,
Okay.
so that we can determine whether or not you are indeed taking that to serve a company that's essential purpose. Although I can't see how taking a picture for a company no is an essential service. How is that essential?
I guess for advertising
So
purposes.
that's not an essential purpose.
Well, it's the company is an essential service, and the company needs to.
Yes, but like for example, a store is allowed to open, and you're already allowed to open and serve the public. We want to limit activity, so there's no need for any advertising at this time. We're in a pandemic. We're in a national emergency. So
Okay.
I would say that no, that's not allowed at this time.
So photographers and videographers,
It depends on the purpose. If you're taking pictures because you have to have a picture for a police record or a passport or something like that, then yes. But if just for purposes that are not essential, well then no, it wouldn't be allowed.
okay, so as far as working from home, is that still a part of what government is encouraging?
Then people call it no when they ask the question.
Yes.
I made that
yes.
very, very clear earlier. Yes, every employer, whether government or private, if you can have people work from home, you are obligated to take that step. How late then come, actually?
I don't know.
Well, then I want to read the whole thing over again.
Well, this will all be on Facebook.
It will all be online.
They can revisit anything
Right.
that they missed. They can revisit.
The Governor General has already signed it, I presume by now. And it will be on the government website very, very shortly. And at that point, you can just go there and read it for yourself.
Okay. I just got a message from the director of the Belize Tourism Board, and she just wants to be clear to avoid any confusion that we want to maintain that hotel accommodations are really and truly to provide a service for essential workers. So they're not necessarily encouraging domestic
Right.
travel for leisure purposes.
Right.
It's really to house workers, like you said,
Right.
for BL, they have
Right.
to be all over the country. So that's the reason behind
It's
that.
allowed, but you'll have to understand that if you go there for a leisure purpose, you'll be confined to your room, basically.
Okay. I think I've exhausted a lot of the questions, and some of them have already been answered. Let me see. Indeed, these are a lot of people who have tuned in late. And they can find the answer to a lot of their questions if they were to go back and look at this webcast from the beginning. Let me just get one more
Sure,
in there.
man, no, take your time.
And this is because this is one of my guilty pleasures. Ice cream parlors and cafes
No.
open for takeout only,
No, they're not an
No.
approved business.
but it's like a restaurant. They sell food,
Well,
like an ice cream parlor.
but you just said ice cream parlor, you're not a restaurant.
But it's a business operating that sells food.
You're the choir did me or they asked the question? You just said, I mean, if you are a restaurant and you happen to sell ice cream on the side, then you can sell the ice cream. It's a part of the service. But to say strictly speaking an ice cream parlor, no, they're not allowed to
But a
operate at this
cafe.
time.
What about a cafe? They sell pastries.
A
and
cafe,
such.
they would have to fall under. You see, it all depends on the type of license that you have, you know. If you don't have a restaurant license, then you're not a restaurant. But maybe it could come under where it says here saloons and other such establishment. But the sale of food, the sale of food has to be the fundamental purpose of that establishment.
Ice cream is not food?
Well, it's a very, very delicious dessert and a comfort type of thing, yes.
And it's essential for my mental health as well.
So yeah, but they have to sell the ice cream, but ice cream parlors have not been determined to be, but I don't know if you have many standalone ice cream parlors, but if they also happen to sell ice cream there, but that's not necessarily their core function, they sell a lot of food or they're a restaurant in general, then yeah, you can do pick up and delivery.
Okay, I think that about wraps up for the most part our questions. Again, if you came late, this is posted online so you can revisit all the information that was shared. You can just go from the beginning and such. Attorney General, thank you once again for coming on. When will we see you here again?
Well, if there's a change in the law, then you'll see me again to come and explain it, if it's the difference between what we have here now and if there are any changes. But whenever that happens or whenever you need me to come out to clarify anything about the law, I am glad to provide.
Okay, I have one question just came in with, and I think it's very important. When it comes to IT related businesses, like for internet technology and
well, if they provide services to essential businesses, then you're allowed to operate. And like I said, the whole thing with the you see, you have to fall within a category. If you are an IT service or an international financial service and you provide this service to an essential business that's allowed to open, let's just say you are a company that provides financial services to a law firm. Law firms are allowed to open, so then you're allowed to open. If you have a business that sells food, ice cream, drinks or whatever, and it's part of a business, then you can do takeout and delivery. So you are allowed to operate within that. So if you're a restaurant or if you're a saloon or anything like that, whatever you sell at that saloon, you can sell. You can sell your ice cream, you can sell your nachos, you can sell your stuff like that, provided that it's for takeout, delivery or drive-through only. Okay. So yes, you could get ice cream if you put it on a saloon and it's being sold with other foods, then it shouldn't be a difficulty.
Okay, perfect. Well,
but remember,
yes,
the most important thing is not that you have an ice cream parlor opening up. The most important thing is that if you have that ice cream parlor open up, you must have social distancing. You can't pile up at the counter. You have to line up with enough distance from each other. The spacing is very, very important. So, like I said, saloons, restaurants, and those places, get your thing, but it can only be for delivery, pick up, or drive-through or whatever. But social distancing, wearing your mask, those are the most important things.
Okay, this question was already answered. A boutique, they supply shoes for uniforms, so that's an essential service, so they should be able to open once they can demonstrate that. Right. This question came in, and I know you don't shy away from the questions, you actually encourage it, so I know we are wrapping up, but I'll ask this one because this person has asked this question several times. As far as someone who is moving, they have given up their apartment, for instance, and they have to for whatever reason, and they're moving back to another district. But the moving process is just not one day, it's a couple days. Right. So can they be going back and forth to like gather their appliances, whatever they're...
Well, certainly if you are no longer, if you have come to the position that you've lost your job, for example, and you can't afford the rent, you are in an emergency situation. So you are allowed to move back to another home or move back to another place that's cross-district even. But you have to be able to answer some questions when you meet the checkpoint. You tell the policeman, oh, I move back the car, but then your truck empty, boss. Your car empty, you don't move what exactly? And after you don't move, you can't move for 2 weeks, I mean for 2 months. You can't move it. So you have to act reasonably, and the policemen will react reasonably to you. So, like I said, it's broader now as to what can open and for how long. But like I said, social distancing is the most important thing, and you must wear your mask.
So, here's another thing. So all of this goes into effect when we wake up tomorrow morning.
When we wake up tomorrow morning,
this will be in effect.
This will be in effect.
Okay, so I implore everyone to get your mask today. Get some form of facial covering today, because if tomorrow you can't say, oh, well, I'm on my way to buy a mask,
Right.
when you're stopped for not wearing a
Right.
mask. That won't fly with police.
No.
will it?
Get somebody who go buy if you bring back the mask for you.
Okay.
Ask somebody who don't get one mask to go buy the mask and bring it back for you.
All right.
And like I said, as we open up more and more, things become more and more complicated, because then you're dealing with more variables. But like I said, when in doubt, you ask yourself this question: do I provide a service to a business that's been approved, or do I provide a service to the government? If the answer is yes to any of those, you are allowed to open, but you must practice social distancing.
Okay. This question came up again, and I can understand why it keeps coming up, because I mean, we've been in the state of emergency for over a month now, and we've had these measures in place for over a month. So this person wants to know about checking on their house in another district.
That come up already last
Yeah,
week, right?
and I could, like I said, I could understand why it keeps coming up, because people do want to check on make sure that it hasn't been broken
Well,
into.
if you believe that there has been some vandalism, if you believe that there's a reason for you to go there, then that you can be classified as an emergency. Well, then you go. But listen to me, people. The more we want to move, the more we want to be relaxed and whatever, the more likely we will take longer in a national emergency. The more we do what we're doing now, we're not out of the COVID-19 woods yet, you know. If we allow people to just move all over the place, the disease could come back, and then we'll go right back to locking down the whole place again. We're hoping that any movement from here will be a movement to more relaxation. So even though you're allowed to move a little bit more now, you have to move with responsibility, and don't move unless you have to. Because then if we become too careless and we become more exposed, then at that point we will have to go into lockdown mode, and this whole process will take even longer. Yeah. So the key thing is this, because it's impossible to list everything. You know the businesses we have just listed: car washes, barber shops, whatever, and then you have the entire government. If you are a business that supplies these businesses, or you are essential to those businesses for them to operate, then you're allowed to open and operate.
Okay.
But you must maintain social distancing. You must ensure that if people can work from home, they can work from home. Remember, no swimming in a river, no swimming in a sea. Curfew is in effect and will remain in effect for children and for adults.
Still no sandbar.
You can't cross the border. And remember, no sweetheart pass.
No, fraternal organizations still cannot meet, correct?
No, lodges have to still remain closed.
Okay.
Like man just hot together with man. Relax, man.
Now, the last question, and I have to ask. Your mother wants to know if casinos will be open.
Closed.
Thank you very much. That wraps up today's show. That concludes our show for today. We will be back with another episode of Ask the Experts. Tomorrow's a public and bank holiday.
Yes.
But if there's anything that we need to relate to the public, we will have someone on. As always, you can check for the notifications on our Facebook page, on the Government of Belize Press Office Facebook page. Remember to wear your mask in public. Beginning tomorrow, it will be the law. Also, make sure you still continue practicing good hygiene. Wash your hands, sneeze into your shirts and such. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always call the Ministry of Health hotline at 0800 MOH CARE, and also the latest updates on COVID-19 in Belize. You can visit the COVID-19 website, which is www.covid19.gov.bz, or no, it's .bz, sorry about that. Okay, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.